It's part 3, and we're still looking at the house wiring in the spinal cord. There it is now. Okay, so basically they've given us here some information about the ascending is in blue, the descending is in red here, so red means that these are motor tracts coming on down. Whenever you see gray matter, of course, those are cell bodies, and there's synapsing going on there. Okay, so in order to exit, if you're a motor buddy, then you have to actually synapse here and get a ventral root multipolar neuron to connect you up with the ventral root and go out to the musculature. And then over here in the dorsal, this would be all sensory information. We come to the dorsal root here, and we're going to take a look now very closely at the house wiring, specifically right here. Here's the house wiring. Okay, so now you're the electrician or someone like them, and you will figure out what's up. And so we're going to look at pathways that deal with touch and proprioception, and we're also going to deal with pathways having to do with pain and temperature. Let's take a look. This is all, how shall I say, afferent, which means going toward the central nervous system. So we can start with the hand or the feet. Let's start lowest down here first with the feet. And so I'm going to be touching the foot. That's what the little feather is there for. And so I touch the foot, and I have a sensory receptor right there because there's skin and there's touch receptors in the skin. And we have generator potentials, which then go along here. Now notice, from the bottom of my foot all the way to my spinal cord, that's what you would call gross anatomy distances. And yet here we have a single neuron, which is microscopic, cannot be seen. And just so this very tiny little delicate thin wiring is going from the bottom of the foot all the way up the leg, the thigh, into the spinal cord, into the back. On the way to the spinal cord, we pass by the cell body and through the dorsal root into the dorsal horn. We do have a little branch here, so if we need to have a reflex or I move my foot quickly because I stepped on something sharp or something, I could do that. But ultimately, it keeps on going. This is still the first order neuron. You notice I've written right here, first order neuron. That's the 1-0 up here. First order, first degree. So, and I've entered the Fasciculus Gracilis. The Fasciculus Gracilis is this most medial aspect of the posterior funiculus. So I have a Fasciculus Gracilis in the posterior funiculus. Right? Fasciculi, fascicula. You just have to sing and you'll be okay. And so we come up here, coming up. We're now at the level of the medulla. Okay? And the medulla means I've gone all the way up to the brainstem. Holy moly, I've gone past my neck. And I have a nucleus right here in the medulla. And in the medulla, I have hit to the Nucleus Gracilis. That means I'm going to have a synapse and I'm going to have the cell body of a second order neuron, which is immediately going to cross over. It's going to cross over into the medial lemniscus. Cross over. It's going to come up, and we get to a third order neuron up here, and it's going to be the thalamus. Okay? All sensory information, except for a few little neurons coming from smell. Every other imaginable sensory information that we've ever been able to discover goes to the thalamus. The thalamus is then going to sort it out. It's going to be the traffic cop that directs traffic to where it's supposed to go. And do you remember how the foot was hanging down into that little fissure there when we saw the homunculus? Right, so the foot is just hanging down over the side. That's going right where it is. So 3 neurons will get you from the bottom of your foot right up to the sensory homunculus. Taking a look at the hand. Okay, here again we have the hand. I could be touching something, but in this case I've decided to move my joint. Okay, and I can tell that I'm moving it because I have a receptor at the joint that says, "Ooh, you're moving your joint," and it's called proprioception. Okay, so if you gesture or move your hand, there are proprioceptors that allow you to be aware of movement, okay, and the position of joints and that sort of thing. Information going in, up the forearm, past the elbow, up the arm, past the shoulder, into the spinal cord. And we're going to go to the dorsal root here, from the spinal nerve to the dorsal root, into the posterior aspect here, the dorsal horn of the gray matter. This is the dorsal horn. And now we're higher up. We're above T1. C5 to T1 is the brachial plexus. And so that means now we're in the Fasciculus Cuneiactus, a little bit more lateral than the Fasciculus Gracilis. So we're going up here. We're going to the Nucleus Cuneiactus. At the Nucleus Cuneiactus, we have our first synapse. That's a long neuron, isn't it? It goes all the way from my thumb, up through my arm, shoulder, up the whole back, past the neck, up here to the base of the skull, to the Nucleus Gracilis. No, I'm sorry, Nucleus Cuneiactus, because this is the hand, Cuneiactus. And now we're going to have the second order neuron. The second order neuron is going to cross over in the medial lemniscus, So it's crossing over, and we're going up to the thalamus on the. So if it was a right hand, now we're on the left side of the thalamus, and now we're over to the left side of the brain, and that's where hands live, over here. Remember, hands were over here, feet were over here. Okay, so we have our next synapse, and then our final location there. Okay, so that's touch and proprioception on that one. Now we're going to take a look at pain and temperature. Okay, pain and temperature, and of course then we're going to do something somewhat, how shall I say, naughty. Look at that. Somebody lit a match right there. Sounds painful to me. And so we're going to go from the bottom of the foot all the way up the leg, knee, thigh, hip, into the spinal nerve right there, in through the dorsal root, into the dorsal horn. Now we're going to synapse at that level to find our second order neuron. Second order neuron is going to cross over to the other side, and we're going to go up. And now remember that we're in that special up and down spot right there that's referred to as the lateral spinal thalamic. So you'll just have to remember that. The lateral spinal thalamic. It's a second order neuron. We're coming on up. The second order neuron is going to go straight up. It's going to synapse in the thalamus, and it's going to, from the foot, it's going to go over here to where feet live. Okay, that's the third order neuron, pain and temperature. In terms of the hand, look at how naughty the artist was here, using a little razor, and we have a little cut right there, a little owie, and so that just also means now we're going to go from the thumb through the forearm, elbow, arm, shoulder, into the spinal nerve, spinal root right here, which is the dorsal root, into the dorsal horn. We're going to synapse at that level. We're going to have our second order neuron crossing over, and it's going to go up through the lateral spinothalamic tract, second order neuron. And in this case, we're going to come up here to the thalamus, all the way right up there, opposite side thalamus. We're going to synapse. There's going to be a third order neuron. It will go to where hands live, out here in the cortex, just the way you like it. Okay, so that's that deal right there. And let's see if we have some time for motor activity.